If you're an American saying, get me out of here, this series is for you. I'm breaking down 7 countries in Europe and what actually makes them livable for a longer stay. I'm Andy. I'm a move abroad mentor, and this is my living room in Portugal. Welcome. I moved to Europe 5 years ago with my 5 kids and my husband, and I've lived in both Eastern and Western Europe. So I am here to tell you what matters about today's country, which is Turkey. My goal is to be your no-nonsense guide to understanding what place in Europe might be a good first stop for you if you are thinking about relocating here, even for the short term. So, Turkey, of course, is a little bit of it officially Europe, and a lot of it is supposed to be Asia. However, it's extremely accessible from Europe. You can get to so many places from Istanbul. And I lived in the Republic of Georgia, which feels much more European than Asian, and it's actually east of Turkey. So these lines are a little blurry sometimes, but that's why I'm including Turkey on my list of 7 countries in Europe for you to consider as an American. There is no perfect country. It's a matter of finding a country that feels like a fit for you, for your family, for your nervous system. And even if that's short term, I think what many Americans need right now is just a place to land and be able to stay for long enough to figure out your next steps. Turkey can absolutely provide that for you. If you're making US dollars, Turkey is going to be a more affordable option for you in Europe, especially compared to Western Europe. You're going to find lots of rentals in Turkey for more affordable prices, definitely than America, but also more affordable prices than Western Europe. If you have a US passport, you're going to be able to enter Turkey without a visa, and you can stay for 90 days. If you're wanting to stay in Europe for an extended amount of time, Turkey is a great country to mix in with visiting the Schengen zone. If you don't know what the Schengen zone is, I will try to address that in a different video, but basically it makes travel between certain European countries similar to traveling between states in the US. Turkey is not in the Schengen zone, which makes it a really nice option for mixing in with, say, a stay in Germany or a stay in Italy. So Turkey also has relatively easy ways to extend your stay. There are options for you as far as how to stay longer than 90 days, but that would require a little bit of an application process. So if you are someone who is sick of what's going on in America, if you are needing a break, you are not overreacting. If you are ready to go now, if you wish you would have left last month, I absolutely understand. I am feeling really relieved to be living in Europe right now. America is super hard on the nervous system, especially as it regards safety. So Turkey can be a place that really makes your life easier, a place that your nervous system can regulate after the intensity and stress of dealing with what America is right now. Turkey is really livable, especially if you're using US dollars. So food, cafes, transportation, accommodations, they are much, much cheaper than in the States. This means that you can live well in Turkey, not just survive. And that's one of the first pieces to being able to figure out your longer term plan. I know it seems strange for me to tell you, just go and figure it out. Now, I'm not telling you go without thinking about your finances. I'm not telling you to leave your house empty. But what I'm saying is It is okay if you are just ready to go. Let me spell this out for you. You don't need to know your final destination. You don't have to have a plan for immigrating to another country. You don't even have to have a plan for long-term residency. Your US passport is still very strong around the world for now. Thank goodness. And so it allows you the chance to go to a country like Turkey for 90 days just on your passport and take a breather, reset. It's going to feel extremely affordable compared to America. It's going to feel new and different and invigorating. You're going to be able to let your system calm enough to be able to plan your next steps. So I am not saying that you need to go and have no idea with your children what's happening next. But what I do recommend is having maybe a year plan, and that doesn't have to be in one place. You could spend 3 months, 3 months, 3 months. Turkey is really great to mix in to Europe, especially if you are trying to figure out a place that you might like to be longer term in Europe. Turkey can be a really soft landing for you financially, and it can feel really splurgy in a lot of ways because maybe you can access things that you don't usually access on a daily basis in America because it's too expensive. So in Turkey, as a person who is making US dollars or has a savings of US dollars, you can go and you can feel like you can thrive, not just survive. I experienced this when I lived in the Republic of Georgia. It was really cool to feel like I had a little bit more freedom to take my kids out to eat or do special activities. It just didn't feel so tight, and that is a privilege, and I just want to acknowledge that. You have things available to you as a person with a US passport and as a person who has US dollars that can really make Turkey a place that feels like a soft landing for you. I know that if you are watching this video right now, you are ready to get out and you're ready to just have a breather. You're ready to come up for air. Turkey is really a place that probably won't be your forever place, but it's a place that you can go and feel safe and feel like you can come up for air. Turkey gives people breathing room financially while you're figuring out your longer term plan. So I really encourage you, just in general, especially if you're a family, to treat this like a world school adventure. Think seriously about having a slow travel life. Stay for 3 months in one place and 3 months in another place. And then if you want, usually the way that you can move around Europe is 90 days in a place out of every 180 days. And to get into the ins and outs of this, I am happy to meet with you and explain how all of that works and make a plan. That's actually what I do in the Get Me to Europe one-on-one package that I offer. The information about that call, where we can map out what a year or two would look like for you, really moving slowly and steady around Europe with your family. I put a link in the description if you want to check that out. Mostly, I just want you to understand that you really have options when it comes to Europe for staying for an extended time without even having to worry about visas. Yes, there are longer stay options. I would say there's short-term options, which don't even feel that short. 3 months in a place or 90 days in a place, that feels like everyday life. You can really get in a rhythm. You can enjoy yourself. You can experience the culture. So that's how I would encourage you to think about Turkey as you consider options. There is a real possibility for you to spend 2 or 3 years in Europe moving very slowly in a way that doesn't feel rushed or chaotic, where you can experience an amazing life. You can show your kids different cultures. You can make this period of your life something beautiful and memorable instead of something traumatic and overwhelming. I really want to encourage you to reframe. I know that you might feel panicked a little bit. Understandably, that is not overreacting, but I want to encourage you, especially if you have children. Perhaps you can look at this period of life that you're considering as an adventure, a daring adventure perhaps, where you can make some memories, introduce your children to amazing places, things that they would never see if you were living in the States, and invest in core memories of your family. If you are thinking about living abroad long term, during that time of decompressing from the stress and trauma that is living in America right now, you will begin to be able to formulate a new plan, a longer term plan. You'll figure out if you even like being abroad long term. I really discourage you from doing what many people do when they come to Portugal. They take a short visiting trip. They decide, oh, Portugal is amazing, which it is. And they go through the whole expensive, long paperwork process. I mean, for my family of 7, it was 300 pages of paperwork that I had to gather. But I did it because I'm a badass. You don't have to do 300 pages of paperwork right now. You don't have to pay thousands of dollars trying to move your whole life to a new country right now. You don't have to do that. I know that you feel like maybe you do have to do that, but right now I would really encourage you to think of your life in several year chunks, okay? Next stop could be Turkey. You could come to Turkey, where service and hospitality is literally just part of the culture, and it's going to feel like such a breath of fresh air for you. I have to tell you a story really quickly about my first trip to Turkey. I visited in 2018 with my friend, and we went to Cappadocia. That's where all of the hot air balloons are, and the landscapes are stunning. It's just totally magical. But what else is so stunning is this. Turkish people are very, very welcoming. Here we were staying at this bougie hotel. It was called the Koza Cave Hotel. It has this rooftop where you can look and watch the balloons every morning. It was incredible. But the first day we arrived there, I don't even know how we got talking to the uncle. He lives nearby, helps out at the hotel. Somehow we made friends with him, and kid you not, he was like, oh, you should come to my house and have some tea. And then I can introduce you to my wife and my children. And then I'll take you to the local pottery museum where there are giant pottery pieces that my wife painted. And so then he took us to the pottery museum, and he arranged for us to get a rental car so that we could go exploring. Now, the rental car was definitely maybe the uncle's best friend's kid's car, and they didn't fill it up with gas before we got it. I have some really good videos of the rental car. Okay. I want you to understand just the kindness and the genuine welcome that Turkish people give you. Even if there's a language barrier, we experience such kindness and such warmth as visitors to Turkey. Turkey will likely feel like such a huge relief for you leaving America. I forgot to introduce you to my dog. This is Rusty. He likes to sleep on the couch. Okay, I want to talk about food and healthcare basics. I don't know if you know this, but Istanbul is a very common hub for medical tourism. So medical care in Turkey, something that I've noticed about healthcare in other countries from America is that not only is it similar as far as being modern and clean and safe, it's definitely more affordable. You could pay for healthcare out of pocket, which is just like completely outside the box of Americans' understanding. But healthcare in Turkey is not going to bankrupt you. You're going to be able to get quality healthcare there. And that's going to be in private settings. I find internationally that most medical professionals do speak some English, if not a lot of English. So I just wouldn't worry about healthcare. I think this is another area where Turkey can provide for you like bodily safety. The food, fresh, real food is normal and plentiful and delicious. Medical care is available, modern, and it won't break the bank. There's just some things that coming from, honestly, the inhumanity and unlivability of America in these very basic areas of food, medical care, housing. I think that you will find you such a breath of fresh air. Is this going to be the place that you want to stay forever? Probably not. I'm not setting you up in this series for here, you should go and you can stay there for the next 10 years and then you can become a citizen. That's not what we're going for here. We're going for places to land and regulate and make your next plan. So Turkey is an extremely livable place that is incredible for exploring, but also just incredible for going and decompressing and feeling human again. You will find it to be a very humane place. Now, Turkey isn't perfect, of course. They have had their fair share of political upheaval, but again, we aren't talking about Turkey for you for the foreseeable future. We're talking about Turkey as a landing place for you over the next couple of years. Especially if you are there for 90 days in one place, you'll get to know the place. And I like to call it a home in the world. You can have a home in the world in Turkey over the next couple of years. And if you like it well enough, you can base there and look into some of the longer term visa options. Turkey as a good landing place for you is why I am highlighting it in this series. In case you haven't gathered, I would say that the people who are going to do well in Turkey are the people who are open to adventure. They're open to a culture that feels really different, but fascinating and lovely and interesting. People who are going to do well in Turkey are budget conscious and just want a financial break from the stresses of paying for life in America. Even the basics in America feel like a financial stress right now. Turkey will feel like a big relief. And so if finances, especially if you are a family, I have 7 people in my family, Turkey would feel like a huge financial relief to a family like mine. Another kind of person who will do really well in Turkey is a flexible person, somebody who is committed to learning, who is fascinated by different cultures, who's fascinated by history. I'm just going to make a quick note here that one of the top amazing things about Turkey is history, but I'm going to be talking about that a little bit later in the video when I mention why I think Turkey is so underrated. Somebody who will not do well in Turkey. If you really want your long-term place right away, first of all, I would push back and say almost no one who moves abroad ends up staying in the first place that they land. It's just a fact. It's something that I've noticed living in Europe for the last 5.5 years. However, if you are somebody who's wanting really clear processes, Turkey is not going to be the fit for you. Are there processes? Yes. Are they a bit relational and not clearly defined? Yes. So residency rules in Turkey change over time. They shift. And if you are wanting something extremely spelled out and clear for a long-term stay in the future, Turkey is probably not going to be the best fit for you. And actually, I would say that extends to many different parts of living in Turkey, because there are just going to be things that you do not understand. And then there will be the language barrier. And so you really have to rely on the people there and trust that they're going to help you get things done. If you like to be highly independent, moving to a place like Turkey is not going to work well for you, because the things that you need to do may not be by researching online. You may need to be relying on your new connections there to help you understand how to get things done. It's not going to be a good fit for you if you tend to really need things spelled out, if you need to know exactly what to expect on a daily basis. The example I gave earlier, where we were going with the uncle from that hotel and we were sort of going different places, like we definitely didn't know what was going to happen next. It was not a spelled out tour. It was like an amazing cultural opportunity, but we just had to roll with it. Like, we had no idea what was going to happen when we went with this uncle. But that actually gives you insight into what is really extraordinary about a country like Turkey. We were 2 women traveling by ourselves. We felt absolutely safe. We were in Cappadocia, which is a more like small towns and rural area of Turkey, and we were driving around. We had no gas. We were stopping on the side of the road buying hamburgers from a grandma and grandpa who were grilling on the side of the road. Like, we felt cared for. Ooh, it's raining. We felt cared for and completely safe in Turkey. But part of that, we had to trust the people. And I would say that the people in Turkey are trustable. I'm sure that there's a difference between big city mentality and countryside mentality. So, you have to be a bit more on guard anywhere in big cities because there's just more people and it's more intense. But I was so impressed with Turkish hospitality. Someone who is also not going to do well in Turkey is somebody who isn't comfortable trying to communicate like a toddler. I have had my fair share of experiences traveling around the world where I ran into a situation where we did not speak the same language. So I was using my Google Translate app, or I was standing at a bakery and I was like, and then you learn the word for like, thank you, like I want 2 of those. Thank you, thank you. So if you aren't somebody who is comfortable or willing to have that kind of interaction, if you can't speak the language, then Turkey isn't going to be a good fit for you. There is much more English available in the world than you would expect. A lot of times, if you really, really need English and you happen to be in a situation where the translator isn't working or whatever, people will go and they will get somebody who speaks English, or they will call their son in some other city who speaks English, and they will have their son translate for you. The world is amazing. Turkey will be like that. You will get taken care of. You will find a way to make yourself understood, but that's not efficient, okay? So I just want you to understand that if efficiency is more of a priority to you than getting an affordable break and experiencing a really new culture, Turkey is not going to feel like a longer term fit for you. So to sum up, I would say that Turkey is really great for adaptable people, and it's going to be a stressor for people who like schedule and control. This next part I'm going to point out not as a pro or a con, but just as a fact about Turkey. Turkey is a Muslim country, so when you're there, you will hear the call to prayer. On a day-to-day basis as a visitor, I wouldn't say that Muslim culture has a huge effect unless you're there probably during Ramadan, which I have not been. But there's just things that are noticeable, like the call to prayer. Turkey is modern and secular in many places, and then there are places that I haven't been that may feel more culturally Muslim. I never felt like I needed to have a head covering in Turkey. For example, when I was in Cairo, Egypt, I felt it's not necessary as a non-Muslim person to wear a head covering, but in Cairo, I felt like I could be less off the radar. No, more off the radar. If I had a head covering as a woman, I was able to blend in more. And I just didn't feel that pressure in Turkey at all to have a head covering. It's just not, in Turkey, that tends to be less common that women would need a head covering. So to sum up, who does well in Turkey? Flexible people do well in Turkey. People who are looking for immediate relief, not long-term solutions. Turkey works well for people who are okay being a guest in a non-Western feeling culture. There will be plenty of things that you don't understand, and you're going to have a cultural interpreter. You're going to have to ask questions. You're going to have to thrust yourself on the goodwill of others. And you will be amazed and encouraged at how people meet you in that. But you have to be the kind of person who's willing to connect and ask for help. If you're somebody who values relationships over systems, over like efficient systems, I think that you will be invigorated by the hospitality and by the way that people genuinely want to connect. And simply, if your brain has been on fire from the amount of trauma that is American culture right now, it's just an onslaught. If you are somebody who's just ready to get a breath and think clearly again, Turkey could be a great fit for you. And again, to sum up, here's who struggles in Turkey. If you lean toward predictability over adventure, Turkey will be stressful for you. If you are going to Turkey expecting Western European or American mentality with cheaper prices, Turkey will not be a good fit for you. If you need processes to be clear, if you cannot roll with changes, Turkey will be a struggle for you. Being in a place like Turkey could be very healing for you and restore your faith in humanity, to be honest. So Well, I believe that Turkey is not for everyone. I want to remind you again that you absolutely do not need to know your long-term destination right now, that there are options for you in Europe. And so if you have a way to have remote income and you have a desire to see the world and experience new things and get a break from the intensity and ridiculousness that is America right now, I completely recommend any of the countries in this series. And I think that you will find Turkey to feel like a really humane break. This is your life. I want it to not only be fear. I want you to realize that there is always stuff to look forward to hope. And so these countries that I'm telling you about in this series, they can really be a beautiful, beautiful thing to look forward to, a beautiful place to have a new experience, have an adventure, make memories, and see something new and beautiful in the world, as well as the hope of just having a nervous system that gets a break. If you want to hear about some more of the options, you can check out my playlist, which is going to pop up here somewhere. It's like magic. I would really invite you to subscribe so that you can get some no-nonsense advice from me as a guide as you try and make a plan for moving to Europe.